Yeah. 2. Yeah. Aye. I'm jacking the beat, you calling the cops, the yapping is cheap, I call you the ops, the rapping is heating, it's all cause of pop, you get a leak for the ball, get a drop, feel like I'm wrong when I double it back, cause I'm making it harder to catch that, but I covered the ticket, I call you to visit, you tipping and hit up the cash app, baby girl been round for it, yeah, in the old days, I was stuck in old ways, never really trying to flip the old page, young man tripping at an old age, thinking I was flicking, had a low wage, led the bro days, then a slow praise, thinking it'd be different, it would gon' change, then it really didn't, it's a cold game, yeah, ayy, all I really wanted was the money in the pocket, got over money, but the money ain't the topic, like Bill Doe and the money gotta stop it, kid need food and the whip need juice, I'ma get these views when the
Why they party? I'm in here grinding, money I'm stacking, why they rock diamonds? I can't relate to them, ain't my shit common. I set a goal for me 2 or 3 commas. 7 figures, 8 figures to 9 figures. On a slow pace to get rich quick. Same time we just think different. Cause when you make it, it hit different.
What's good, baby? It's your partner looking oh so fresh, King, and welcome again to another edition of the Countermoves Podcast, where we take a issue, whether it be economic, social, or from a government standpoint, unpack it together, infuse wisdom into that thing, and then prescribe the right solution. So again, thank you for blessing me with your time. This is going to be a really good one. But before we get into our topic today, if you're getting value from this channel, share, like, and subscribe, and click on that little bell if you're on YouTube and or Rumble, guys, so you can actually get alerted each time I go live. And so, guys, again, thank you for your time. This is going to be a really, really good one. Now, we're in the heat of a presidential election right now. We're actually at the end. Voting has already begun in some different states, right? Early voting has. There's been a high turnout of voters so far. And both candidates, Vice President Kamala Harris and President Trump, are making their closing pitches. Now, they're doing a lot of countless interviews, and I'm going to focus on 2 of them. Kamala Harris, she had one last week, and that was the Fox News interview. That was all over social media, everywhere. And also, President Donald Trump went on Bloomberg as well and had an interview there. So we're going to look at those 2 situations, and we're going to pay close attention to a couple of things that they're talking about. And so the first person we're going to look at is Vice President Kamala Harris and on her Fox News. Now, I've been very critical of Vice President Kamala Harris because of the fact that she has not been eager to go on adversarial media outlets. She's been going to a lot of friendly outlets. I've been very critical of that on her. So kudos to her going over to Fox. We're going to see how this actually goes, guys. And so if you could, as we listen, comment below. Let me know what you think about it. Give your thoughts, guys. We can kind of reason together. So this is going to be very interesting. So the first one we're going to look at is Vice President Kamala Harris. She's sitting down with, I think, a good journalist. His name is Brett Baer. Phenomenal, fair, in my opinion. And let's see how this exchange actually works, guys. See how what actually went down here. So here we go. This is Vice President Kamala Harris going on Fox News with Brett Baer. Let's see what's going on. Here we go.
Madam Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries.
Okay.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
So from the get-go, you hear Brett Baer start immediately with a very pointed question, and he's coming in hot in a good way to get down to the root of what he wants to talk about, because this is a big issue in the election right now. Here we go.
3.5 years.
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point.
Okay.
Okay. The point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get you the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to.
Brett ain't playing no games from the get-go. He does not want to deal with any filibustering, long answers, any word salads, which the vice president has been accused of. And I have to agree, she gives long answers. Typically, that's done to kind of chew up the time frame. But Brett ain't having it. He really wants an answer to this. All right, here we go.
To answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial.
Okay.
So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes.
All right.
So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
So before she goes into the answer, guys, I want you to notice something very different in what both Brett is talking about when it comes to questioning and the vice president is talking about when it comes to answering. Brett is focused on executive branch functions, which means his focal point is border security, because per the Constitution, the executive branch is the authority over securing the border. That's why you have the Department of Homeland Security, which Secretary Mayorkas is the secretary of, right? That's an executive branch function. Initially, you hear the vice president talk about something different than border security. And you also hear Brett talk about how there was some executive orders that were rescinded. But let's see how she answers to see if she answers the question talking about border security. Here we go.
The beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You had the White House and the House and the Senate, and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to...
So notice how she's talking about a topic that's totally different than what Brett is talking about. Brett is talking about, again, border security. She is talking about immigration, right? Which is a legislative branch function per the Constitution. Do you see the difference in what's going on? She's not even answering Brett's question concerning the function and the authorities that she currently actually has with the executive branch. She keeps pivoting over to immigration. Let's continue to let this unfold. Here we go.
Finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion.
I'm confused at her answer because, again, she's pointing toward immigration and not border security, which is what she currently has authority of right now via the powers of the president, because she's a part of the executive branch. And she makes an odd claim concerning President Trump. How does a former president not in office have more authority than a sitting vice president? And then number two, also, is you had 6 Democrats vote against this same bill that you're talking about that you rolled out when you first got in office, because there was really 2 bills. There was one when you wrote out in office and one, I believe, in 2023, right? So I'm confused at how a former president has more authority than a sitting vice president. And number two, if it was so good, why did 6 of your colleagues vote against this bill? You got to answer that question. Let's see what she says.
That the American people want to have, and what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue.
I hear you.
But actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation.
Yeah.
This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say,
Good
first
question.
of all, those are tragic cases.
Okay.
There's no question about that.
Got it.
There's no question about that.
All right.
And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred.
Got it.
So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago,
Back
it
to
would
immigration.
be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Oh, here we go.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungary's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days.
Yes.
So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss.
Okay.
Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions.
What does it have to do with addressing the question that Brett is asking you? Pivoting over to talking about Donald Trump is not answering the question at all. Answer the question, Madam Vice President. Just answer the question.
Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all
her?
fairness, I told you I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure.
Yes.
When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
Great question.
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about it.
Do you see the difference in verbiage? Again, Brett is saying you said that repeatedly that the border was secure. When did it become unsecure? Great question. She responds, we're talking about immigration. What? Wow.
About that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are.
Bad.
That it needs to be fixed.
It's bad.
We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted.
Wow.
They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how.
I'm sorry. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. Why does Madam Vice President, why do you continue to pivot over to immigration? Why won't you address the border security question? Because that's the authority that you actually have. Why won't you flex your authority that you have in the executive branch? You were put as the lead on the border by President Biden to solve the root causes, right? So I'm trying to figure out why you're shying away from talking about border security. It's your function. See how she responds.
How this system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90 plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently.
So Brett just pointed out 90 executive orders that President Trump, President Biden's predecessor, had on the books that Biden Harris rescinded when they got into office at the exact same time, saying that the border is secure. I thought she had no authority. If that was the case, why did you do anything at all with the executive orders that Trump put on the books? You should have just left them alone, because based on your logic, Madam Vice President, you have no authority, right? And Congress is the end all be all to solve this problem. That's why you keep running over to immigration and not talk about border security. Man, let's keep going. Great interview by Brett.
We talked to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security.
Oh, wow.
Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support.
And why won't you support the border security, the border patrol? They're frustrated because of what your administration is doing, not because of Donald Trump. It's because of what you are doing. That's why they endorsed. That's why they endorsed your opponent. Wow.
They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done.
Here we go.
These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president.
Okay.
And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law.
Sure did.
So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
That is a non-answer. It was a direct question that required a direct answer, and you gave no answer. Well, you gave no answer. I'm gonna leave it right there. You gave no answer. We need an answer on this one. But it seems to be that you may have, but I digress. Let's keep going, guys.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
Okay.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries happened during his presidency.
Well, you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no.
Well, Madam Vice President, they're saying that these changes never happened under the administration. So what responsibility should they be taking if what you're claiming did not happen in the administration? Again, perplexed by your response.
Surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in
so
black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people.
An issue that you gave no answer to. So if you're saying he has no plan, you have no plan, unless your plan is to allow it to happen. That's the only logical conclusion that anyone can actually, just listening to the sound of my voice and hearing what you're saying, can honestly come to a conclusion on. Let's keep it going, guys. This is it, boy.
It's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our...
Man, the one thing I keep hearing whenever there's a presidential election every 4 years, when it comes to really the left and the right running against one another, on the left side, it seems to be the same talking point of tax cuts to the billionaires. It's like on repeat. Am I tripping? Am I tripping? It's the same talking points. But let's see, because it seems to be that Vice President Kamala Harris has pivoted over from the border security / immigration talk to now the economy. Let's see how this unfolds.
Deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Okay. Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of... Yes. But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
New generation, okay.
For example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing. Okay. Addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Ooh.
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
What? But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about.
What? No, we don't. How in the world does Britt ask you a question concerning turning the page? She keeps saying it's time to turn the page, a new leadership, new way forward, but you've been in office for 3.5 years, right? And he eloquently says, and I think honestly says, well, that page would be from you. Damn near 80% of people said that we're on the wrong track when they talk to pollsters. And then your response is, and Donald Trump has been running for 10 years? What in the hell? Wow. Y'all, we're going to end it right there as far as when it comes to Fox News, man. This was a interview that did not go well for Kamala Harris. I don't think she was prepared for it. It was kind of the same old talking points. She seemed like she has a great memory because it says them the same thing every single time she goes on TV. But she wasn't prepared for this interview at all. She was not. Man, this was a very interesting interview because when it comes to, well, I'll give you my thoughts concerning this, but I want to go to another interview that she was on. All right. So here in a second, let's go to that interview. And she actually talks directly to a voter on border security / immigration because she brings it in there. And you'll see the exchange there. This was on a friendly outlet, CNN. Let's go to this one real fast. Here we go.
I want you to meet Jackson Weiss, who's a student at Drexel University from Flourtown, Pennsylvania, registered Republican, says he's leaning toward voting for you, but has yet to make a final decision. Jackson.
Okay.
Thank you, Anderson.
Hey, Jackson.
Thank you for taking the time to be here, too, Vice President Harris.
You too. Thank you.
Regarding the rapid increase in the migrant population, how will you ensure that every immigrant is integrated into American society safely? What benefits and subsidies will you provide them with? And how long will these benefits and subsidies last for an individual? Most importantly, will the American citizens' taxes pay for these benefits and subsidies? And if so, how much money will be allocated?
Great question.
Well, thank you, Jackson. Let's start with this. America's immigration system is broken and it needs to be fixed. And it's been broken for a long time.
Here we go.
And part of what we need to do is always prioritize what we need to do to strengthen our border. I will tell you, I'm the only person in this race among the two choices that voters have. I've personally prosecuted transnational criminal organizations.
Same stuff.
In the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career making sure that our border is secure and that we do not allow criminals in and we don't allow that kind of trafficking to happen and come into our country. And as my opponent has proven himself, he would prefer to run on the problem instead of fix the problem. You may know there were some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress working with others that came up with a border security bill.
Can we answer the damn question, man? God dang. It's been like a minute. It's been like a minute and probably about a minute and a half, minute and 18 seconds. God, answer the damn question. My word.
That would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border. Those border agents are overwhelmed. They need the support. They need the backup. It would have allowed us to have more resources to stem the flow of fentanyl. I don't need to tell this state and people around the country what is happening in terms of the scourge of fentanyl and how it is literally killing Americans.
Come on, man.
It would have put resources into stemming the flow. It would have given more resources to prosecute, to investigate and prosecute transnational criminal organizations. It would have done a lot of good. What? Donald Trump got wind of the bill and told them, don't put it forward. He killed the bill because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. We have to have a secure border and we have to have a comprehensive pathway for citizenship. The
question was clear. This ain't answering the question. She just diverted back to her old talking points and just, I gotta say, word salad her way to not even answering the damn question. We gotta answer the question, man. Golly. We hadn't heard this before. His questions were very specific. Not one was answered. Let's see how it unfolds, y'all.
It includes requiring people, hardworking people, to earn citizenship and do it in a comprehensive, humane, and orderly manner.
Let me ask you about that. I mean, you talk about the bill that Donald Trump quashed. That was in 2024. Okay. You talk about the bill he tried to get passed in 2021. That wasn't able to get passed. 2022, 2023, there were record border crossings. Your administration took hundreds of executive actions. It didn't stem the flow. Numbers kept going up. Finally, in 2024, just in June, 3 weeks before the first presidential debate with Joe Biden, you institute executive actions that had a dramatic impact, really shut down people crossing over. Why didn't your administration do that in 2022, 2023?
Ooh, man, yeah, this is CNN. Anderson Cooper, hand clap of praise, baby. On asking that question. Hand clap of praise, baby. Great question. My God. Whoo. Let's see how she responds, y'all. Let's see how she responds.
First of all, you're exactly right, Anderson. And as of today, we have cut the flow of immigration by over half. In fact, the numbers I saw most recently, illegal immigration.
But if
is
it was
low.
that easy with that executive action, why not do it in 2022, 2023?
Question. Come on.
Because we were working with Congress and hoping that actually we could have a long-term fix to the problem instead of a short-term fix.
You couldn't have done one and both at the same time?
Well, here's the thing. We have to understand that ultimately this problem is going to be fixed through congressional action. Congress has the authority and the purse. I'd hate to use DC terms, but literally they write the checks.
Anderson Cooper, these two questions were probably the two best questions that I've ever heard you ask. Because, brother, these are great questions. He's saying, why couldn't you walk and chew gum at the same time? Work with Congress because they do have authority over the immigration process, right? But you can then shut down the border via executive order, as your predecessor Donald Trump did, right? During that time frame, why didn't you do both? And look what she did. She pivoted back to the same old talking points of Congress is the only one that can actually solve this problem, because she does not want to have a border security discussion, which is an executive branch function. She wants to have an immigration function discussion, which is a congressional function. Totally dishonest. And she knows it. How do we know? We just heard in the Fox News exchange she had with the Brit Baier, they rescinded 90 executive orders that President Trump actually had concerning the border security and securing the border, I would say. And that is, and of course, the crossing spiked. Brilliant. Here we go.
Part of the issue is in order to really fix the problem at the border. I was just at the border recently talking with border agents. You know what they talk about? Yes, they are overwhelmed. They're working around the clock. And the other thing that they talk to me about,
same stuff.
We need more judges down there to deal with asylum claims. We need more personnel down there to deal with processing. But Anderson, and that's where Congress kicks in terms of dedicating the resources to actually fixing the problem. We have dealt with it such that, to your point, we now, as of today, as of our visit, have lower undocumented immigrants and illegal immigration than Trump when he left office.
That's true.
But we need a permanent solution, and that requires bipartisan work.
Do you wish you'd done those executive orders in 2022, 2023?
I think we did the right thing, but the best thing that can happen for the American people is that we have bipartisan work happening, and I pledge to you.
So she said that with a very pointed question concerning from Anderson Cooper about doing something between, I think, in 2022 and 2023, when it comes to their executive branch authority. She responded and said, we did the right thing by letting more people come in illegally. This is on CNN. This is on CNN. Great questions. And again, let's see how she talks through this one. Let's see. Well, this is
that I will work across the aisle to fix this long-standing problem. I think the American people are demanding it on both sides of the aisle.
No, we are demanding that you get up. We are demanding that you use the authority that has been given to you to secure the damn border and stop trying to play political games, right? And kicking it to Congress. If you want to have that discussion with Congress, we cool with that. I'm rocking with you on that one. Why not secure the border with your executive branch powers at the exact same time, can begin and iron out a deal with Congress to address the immigration issue that you're speaking about. But it seems like she does not want to use her executive branch authority, and I don't know why. It didn't make any sense to me.
And it's time we actually put the partisan approach to this aside. We know what can work.
Well, let's talk about this compromise bill that you want to pass if you're elected. You said that's going to be a priority. It includes $650 million in funding for the border wall. That's something Republicans wanted. That was part of the compromise. Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Wow.
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't.
Can we answer one question? Just one. Just one. Just one.
How much of that wall did he build? I think the last number I saw was about 2%. And then when it came time for him to do a photo op, you know where he did it? In the part of the wall that President Obama built.
But you're agreeing to a bill that would earmark $650 million to continue building that wall.
I pledge that I am going to bring forward that bipartisan bill to further strengthen and secure our border. Yes, I am. And I'm going to work across the aisle to pass a comprehensive bill that deals with a broken immigration system. I think Jackson's question, part of it was to acknowledge that America has always had migration, but there needs to be a legal process for it. People have to earn it. And
all right, guys. So, Lord Jesus, do you guys want to know what was in the bill that she keeps touting concerning the bill that she said that Trump, I don't know how, has more authority than the sitting vice president to kill said bill? Let's see what's in this bill, right? In this bill, it would have enshrined catch and release into law. It automatically creates work permits for illegal immigrants. Taxpayers are forced to pay for lawyers for illegal immigrants. $5,000 per day will be permitted as federal law. Billions of taxpayers' dollars would go to sanctuary cities and non-GMOs to deal with illegal immigrants. And this is the kicker. A president can waive all these statutes by just notifying Congress. Tell me how any of that secures the border. This is, man, wow. Both of those exchanges was very interesting concerning Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris. Here are my thoughts concerning our Vice President. That Fox News interview with Brett Baird, I think, was fair. I think Brett did a great job. I don't think that the Vice President did a very good job. She did horrible in that exchange. Now I kind of see why she has kind of shied away from confrontational or high-pressured interviews, because in those high-pressure interviews, she does not perform well, not based on my opinion. You just saw it. And concerning the border security, she keeps trying to wrap herself in the legislative function of immigration and said that the only way she can actually secure the border is through a legislative action. Well, that's actually incorrect. She can literally shut down the border with President Biden now. Shut down the border right now. They can secure the border. They can. They don't want to do that at all. I'll give you an example. I live in Texas. Well, as you guys know, Texas was trying to secure the southern border because all of the migration of illegal immigrants coming across the southern border. It got bad, y'all. And so the state of Texas, hey, you know what? Hey, we got to secure our own border. And so as they begin to secure the border, guess who began suing them? the Biden-Harris administration, begin suing them for trying to secure the border. And you heard us say in the CNN exchange that they believe in 2022 and 2023, they did the right thing, but not doing nothing. That's not my words. That's Vice President Kamala Harris's words. And that's kind of concerning to me. So, and then when it came to the CNN exchange, I mean, Anderson Cooper did his thing. I got to give it to him. I got to get great interview. And again, no substance. The same old talking points. She didn't answer that gentleman's question at all. She barely answered Anderson's questions. And this is in a friendly this is in a friendly media outlet environment. This is easy to see. It's just, guys, those two interviews for Vice President Kamala Harris were horrid. Now, I got to ask you this question. Is this the type of thinking? Before I go there, leaders are cultivated in high pressure environments, right? That's how leaders are cultivated. The higher the pressure, right, the more sharper the leader. It seems to be, in my opinion, that when the pressure is high, Kamala Harris does not show up. Therefore, she's not a leader. She doesn't pivot very well off of her talking points. Every context when it comes to business from a private sector standpoint and a public sector standpoint, right? It's not going to be the exact same. You have to think off the cuff a lot of the times. That's what negotiation is. And it seems to be negotiating is not it may not be a skill that Vice President Kamala Harris may have mastered yet. Now, I got to ask you this question. Based on what you've seen, right? My commentary, most likely your commentary, because you're listening to this, is this the type of thinking that you want sitting across the table from President Xi of China, President Putin of Russia, or any other leader, Netanyahu of Israel, right? Or any other leader, Kim Jong-un of North Korea? Is this the type of thinking that you want, negotiating affairs that affect you and 3 generations after you? If the answer is yes, go vote Kamala Harris. If the answer is no, don't vote Kamala Harris. My thoughts on this, for me, the answer is it's emphatically no. No. She's not a leader. And I mean it respectfully. A title doesn't make you a leader at all. What you do makes you a leader. Even when you can't see where you're going, that's where leadership is fine-tuned. If that makes some sense, guys. It's that simple. It's not hard. So for me, I don't see her as a leader at all. Period. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Comment below. Let me know what you think about Kamala Harris. How does she perform in both of the interviews? And number 2, has she earned your vote based on these interviews and other things that she said? Has she earned your vote? All right, guys. Man, this is very interesting. Very interesting exchange when it comes to both a friendly outlet and a more of a contentious outlet when it comes to our Vice President Kamala Harris.
What's good, y'all? The Bucks here. Most individuals that I talked to today, they're really concerned about the economy, specifically the volatility of it. Number 1, they're really concerned about inflation. Now, the area of their concerns really centers around the the variable of inflation. Inflation right now is really outpacing people's wages, number one. And number two, it's beginning to affect their 401k and IRAs because their retirement accounts are connected or intertwined with the stock market. Over the years, I've been fairly successful in real estate investing. Currently, I own about $35 million worth of real estate under management. And also my partner and I have been able to build our private equity and venture capital firm to about $1.2 billion worth of assets under management. Now, the success has taken place in up or down economies. Now, whenever there's volatility in the market, opportunities begin to show up. There are 3 investment strategies that, if implemented the correct way, any investor can go from 0 to 6 figures in the next 6 to 12 months. Click on the link below or swipe up and let's talk through these strategies. All right, guys, now we're going to change our perspective right now. We're going to change our point of view now. We're going to begin looking at President Donald Trump. He is hot on the campaign trail, trying to close a deal, as is Vice President Kamala Harris. But there's been a topic about Donald Trump that I've been involved in discussions on panels. I've heard it. I've seen it online. I've seen it in interviews, and it is President Trump's tariff policy. There's arguments for it and against it. There's economists for it, economists against it. I mean, there's a lot of commentary concerning his tariff policy, guys. And so before we dive into the interview that he did with Bloomberg, because the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg actually talks to him about his tariff policy, there's been a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation, but some misunderstanding concerning what tariffs is. So I thought it'd be wise for us to bring in my old partner, PBD Patrick McDavid, to kind of walk through what a tariff is, right? And then when we got the proper perspective, right, we can then go back to President Trump, and then we can close that thing also with PBD as well. So let's walk through what is a tariff right now. Here we go.
There's all these arguments over tariffs. Mark Cuban, no, it's it's the worst thing, you should never do it. Trump, my favorite word in the dictionary is tariffs. Everybody's talking about trade deficits, trade surplus. How the hell does this thing work out? I'm going to explain to you tariffs in a way that you can explain to anybody moving forward. You ready? Let's just say I am an accountant and I need referrals. I want you to give me clients because I need to grow my business. Sure. Let's say you sell auto insurance and we meet each other. We're friends. We're networking at a local Chamber of Commerce event. We say, hey man, you give me one referral, I'll give you a referral. You want to kind of share some clients together? Let's do it. No problem. So all of a sudden, a month later, I've given you 5 referrals. You've given me 0. I have a referral deficit of -5. You have a referral surplus of +5. Trade deficit, trade surplus. You get the idea? Now, think about it if a year later, 5 years later, you and I are giving referrals to each other. I sit down and I look at the numbers and I said, wait a minute, Johnny, I've given you 1,100 more referrals than you've given to me. Do I look like a dummy to you? Why do I keep giving you referrals and you give me nothing in return? You're like, I take care of your clients when you send them my way. What's wrong with that? I show them, like, I want to make some commission. I'm not making any money on this deal. It doesn't matter. I'm taking care of your clients. That's exactly the relationship between U.S. and China. So you may be saying, Pat, why 1,100 referrals? What's the big deal? Here's what the trade deficit of U.S. with all the other countries worldwide is. If each referral equaled $1 billion, our trade deficit is $1.1 trillion against the rest of the world. We've given the rest of the world $1.1 trillion of business more than they've given us. What the hell are we doing in America? Is this what it is? And we just give everybody business? And by the way, guess what country in the world has the highest trade surplus, who has taken more referrals than anybody else in the world? What country do you think that is? It's China. Yes, do you know how much more? $823 billion more than they've given to everybody else. You know what China is saying? Hey, don't tell anybody. I mean, they keep sending us business and we don't need to send. They're not saying shit to us. Keep taking the money, and boom. Oh shit, this guy got elected. His name is Trump. This guy's problematic. He doesn't like this stuff. What do we do? Release a virus. Do this. What do we do with all this stuff? Let's shut down the entire world so this guy doesn't get reelected. Oh my God, thank God all these other guys show up. What do we do with these guys now? That's the whole concept of tariffs, trade surplus, trade deficit, and why it's becoming a topic of discussion where Mark Cuban is reacting to it, Trump is reacting to it, and everybody else in business wants to really get to the bottom of it. If you get value out of this.
So, guys, that is a phenomenal breakdown of what a terrorist truly is. And I thought it'd be wise for us to kind of look at that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in President Trump concerning his interview with Bloomberg, guys. All right. So Bloomberg talks to him about terrorists. We're going to get right to it in a second. But again, I like how PBD, Patrick David, broke that down, right, to where how tariffs and trade deficits, right, and agreements. You see what I'm saying? So he broke that down to where tariffs is a tool that the head executive branch of the United States can use when it comes to balancing different trade deals. And so I wanted to unpack that for you real quickly so you can kind of see what that is, right? And we'll go a little bit deeper in a second. Don't get it twisted. Your partner hanging with me. Your partner got you. But now let's go to President Trump. He's going to talk with Bloomberg editor-in-chief about tariffs, guys. And then we go back to PBD to put a little bow on it. Here we go. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, the Economic Club of Chicago. Thank you, David, particularly. I want to say two things at the beginning to the debt. Mm-hmm. That's more than twice the total for Vice President Harris. You're on course to push up debt up to 150% of GDP. This is a very business-like audience.
Yeah.
Why should they trust you with that?
Because we're about growth. She's got no growth whatsoever, and we're all about growth. We're going to bring companies back to our country. You look at even today, as I was driving over, I see these empty, old, beautiful, like steel mills and factories that are empty and falling down. Some have been converted to senior citizens' homes, but that's not going to do the trick. And we're going to bring the companies back. We're going to lower taxes still further for companies that are going to make their product in the USA. We're going to protect those companies with strong tariffs, because I'm a believer in tariffs. I'm not sure that you are. I don't think you are, but I congratulate you on your career. But to me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. And it's my favorite word. It needs a public relations firm to help it. But
and there seems to be a large amount of the audience there at the Chicago Economic Club, right, actually agree with Trump's love for tariffs. Let's see how this unfolds. Here we go.
To me, it's the most beautiful word in the dictionary.
Tariffs, do you think that will bring in the revenues? To use another bipartisan group, Peterson Institute, they say they'll only bring in $200 billion. That is that's barely the cost of two of your promises.
Yeah, but that's like, for what company are you talking about, okay? Look, I've brought in with tariffs, and I was just getting started. Then COVID came, and we had because I tell you what, I did a very good job in COVID. Nobody knew what the hell it was. I call it the China virus because I like being a little more accurate. But when that came, but we got hundreds of billions of dollars just from China alone, and I hadn't even started yet. But tariffs are two things, if you look at it. Number one is for protection of the companies that we have here and the new companies that will move in, because we're going to have thousands of companies coming into this country. We're going to grow it like it's never grown before, and we're going to protect them when they come in, because we're not going to have somebody undercut them. And I could give you an example of this if you want. Would you like me to? Because it just
give me a quick example, and I will come back.
I just found out about it. So I've been talking about for the last year about Detroit and how horribly it has been. It's just horrible, because we've been talking about Detroit's coming back for 40 years, and it's never come back. And it's very dependent on the car industry. Well, they've lost 60% of the business over a long period of time. And what happened is I found out a friend of mine builds auto plants. That's all he does. He builds auto plants. That's what he's good at. He doesn't want to build an apartment. All he wants to build and he builds the biggest in the world. And for the last year and a half, if anybody's heard me speak, I was talking about Mexico as a tremendous challenge for us right now. Tremendous. China is building massive auto plants in Mexico. And they're going to build them, and they're going to take those cars and sell them into the United States. They're very near the border. And they're going to have all the advantages and none of the disadvantages. And that's going to be the end of Michigan. It's going to be the end of, frankly, South Carolina. Going to be the end of everything. So I've been talking about this, and I said to him about 9 months ago, I said, you know what? I want you to do me a favor, John. His name is John. I don't want to give his last name because he might not like it. But I said, I want to see an auto plant. I want to go and see one of these. You press a button and everything works, right? I want to see one of the big ones. He said, all right, good. I said, where do we go? I'd like to go to Michigan. I'd like to go to someplace in the United States. He said, no, we can't do that. Why? We're not building anything big in the United States. That's not where we don't build the big ones here. I said, where are you building the biggest ones? He said, in Mexico. We're building giant plants, the biggest plants anywhere in the world.
Whoa.
In Mexico, I said, so you mean they're going to make cars cheaply? They have advantages over labor and other things, and they're going to sell them into the United States, and they're going to put Michigan out of business. Is that what? I don't know anything about that. All I do is build the plants. If you want to see a plant, we'll go to Mexico. I'll show you the biggest plant in the world. That was 9 months ago. I saw him, and I talked about it all the time because I think it's a serious threat to our country, because not only autos, but other things. So then I see him 2 days.
It seems to be that. Hold on, before I get my thoughts, here we go. Let's hear this end of the story.
These guys talking at another club, very nice club, and like this, except, I don't know, I think you people are probably even wealthier, okay? This was in Detroit, okay, which was appropriate. And I was showing them all sorts of charts about how their car, it's just gone down. It's like terrible. And I saw him and I said, oh, how are you doing? How have you been? I said, could I ask you, how are those plants that you mentioned, those giant plants that you're building in Mexico, how is that coming along? Have you finished them? No, sir. They abandoned the project when they heard you're running. They abandoned the project when they saw that you were winning and doing well. I said, wow.
It seems to be that this crowd at the Economic Club of Chicago is, of course, they're pro-business because they're business guys, but they like the tariffs because of the fact that, as you can see, President Trump, as he's unpacking the story and positioning it, he's a big proponent of using tariffs as a negotiating scenario to compete, to be basically an advocate to compete on the world stage for American-made companies. The one thing about Trump, he's very transactional. He's a transactional guy. So I can understand how that could be the case if this story is accurate. But let's see how this unfolds with the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg. Here we go.
All the same.
Because I told them, and I said it publicly, they're not going to sell one car into the United States. I said, if I run this country, if I'm going to be president of this country, I'm going to put a 100, 200, 2,000% tariff. They're not going to sell one car into the United States.
Wow.
Because we're not going to destroy our country because I know you're an anti-tariff guy, but I'm the exact opposite. There was no other way I could have stopped them other than, what am I going to do, negotiate with Mexico or China? You're not going to get anything from that. I said I'm going to put a 100, 200, or 300. I'm going to put the highest tariff in history, meaning I'm going to stop them from ever selling a car into the United States.
Oh, wow.
So I just see the guy by accident. I see him. He says, sir, they've abandoned those. And by the way, they built foundations. They were really rocking. They were going to do it. They thought that I was going to win, or maybe they're just holding off. I tell you this. If I don't win, those factories are going to wipe out this country. They're the biggest factories ever built for cars. They're going to wipe out our country. If she wins, and she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. If she wins, she's not going to be thinking about, I couldn't, every speech I made having to do with cars, but every speech I made having to do with tariffs, I'd mentioned that our country is being threatened by Mexico. Now, all of those things, beyond even the car companies, all of those things are now dead. They're dead. I asked him, will they start? Probably not. They're dead as a doornail. If she gets in, it'll start up again.
President Trump, I'll let you give your example.
No,
you talked a lot about tariffs.
Okay,
you look at the American economy, 40 million jobs rely on trade. It accounts for 27% of GDP.
Okay.
If you cut that off, that's also going to have an effect on many, many business people here.
Interesting.
Tariffs also have another side. Isn't that something that you have to acknowledge?
No.
You could be plunging America into the biggest trade war since Smoot-Hawley.
But there are no tariffs.
You're going to stop. There are tariffs already at the moment.
There are no tariffs. All you have to do is build your plant in the United States, and you don't have any tariffs.
But people.
So what he's saying is that as long as you build your plants or produce your product in the U.S., there's no tariffs. Interesting. I mean, and that makes sense. How a company that relies on let's say a product from China, which is fine, if they're paying a tariff, that's going to be passed on to the consumer, because no business at all eats a cost. They pass it on to the consumer. Let's see how President Trump responds to. That's a great question by the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg.
Cool. A lot of places like this, there are a lot of jobs that rely on foreigners coming here. You're going to basically stop trade with China. You're talking about 60% on that, 60% tariffs on that. You're talking, as you said, 100, 200% on things you don't really like. You're also talking about 10, 20% tariffs on the rest of the world. That is going to have a serious effect on the overall economy. And yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive in terms of the economy.
I agree it's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
let me just I know how committed you are to this, and it must be hard for you to spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong. It'll have
wow, that's a bold statement to make. President Trump is a very confident man. That's a very bold statement he just made to the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg. But let's see how it unfolds. Here we go.
It will have. I'll go a step further.
40 million jobs is a lot of jobs to rely on.
They're all coming back.
Those are 40 million jobs. Those are 40 million jobs in America that rely on trade.
Are you ready? John Deere, great company. They announced about a year ago they're going to build big plants outside of the United States, right? They're going to build them in Mexico.
And you threatened them with tariffs and they stopped.
That's right. I said, if John Deere builds those plants and not selling anything into the United States, they just announced yesterday they're probably not going to build the plants, okay?
Wow.
I kept the jobs here, and I'll keep John Deere will stay here.
He's right about that. President Trump right about that. If John Deere, in example, is building a plant over in Mexico, right? Those jobs in the U.S. that can be transferred over to Mexico because of cheap labor, right? A better tax incentive for John Deere. Those American jobs are gone. So what Trump did in an example, he said, I let them know I'm going to charge you a tariff for every single product that you make in Mexico and sell it in the U.S. because you're taking the jobs away from the U.S. That's how a chief executive officer should negotiate for the companies and workers that he governs for. That's looking out for their best interest, right? And then you see, because he's in transactional, John Deere's like, we're not building that anymore. Now, again, I got to confirm that, but from what President Trump is saying is that, and also the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg confirmed as well, John Deere is not building that plant anymore. Interesting. So it seemed to be using tariffs seemed to work.
Tell John Deere, if you do build outside of the United States, you can if you want. For instance, India is a very tough country. It's not only China. China is the, I would say, probably the toughest, but there are a lot of tough. You know what's very tough? European Union. Our beautiful European countries, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. If you add them up, they're almost the size of us. They treat us so badly. We have a deficit. I said to Angela Merkel when she was there, she's not there anymore, I wonder why, but when she was there, I said, Angela, how many Chevrolets do we have in Berlin? Why, Donald, you have none. He said, that's right. How many Fords do we have in Frankfurt? I don't know, none. I said, that's right. You know how many cars we have? Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and all of the different Volkswagen, millions and millions of cars. And then I said, farm products. They don't want our farm. They don't want anything from us. We have deficits that are crazy, and we're not going to have them anymore. We're going to put tariffs on them, and they're going to do. And you know what they can do? The Mercedes-Benz will start building in the United States, and they have a little bit. But you know what they really are? Assembly, like in South Carolina. But they build everything in Germany, and then they assemble it here. They get away with murder because they say, oh, yes, we're building cars. They don't build cars. They take them out of a box, and they assemble them. We could have our child do it.
Can we come back?
The attention to detail on the functionality of companies that Trump has is mind blowing. It is mind blowing. But so we saw a real life example of John Deere with the threat of tariffs, basically stop developing that plant in Mexico. So it seems to be Trump is using tariffs as a negotiating tool, which I think is wise for the benefit of the American worker and American companies, which is pretty good. Now, let's go back to Patrick Bet-David real quickly to talk about tariffs again, because he goes a little bit deeper in this, and I want to make sure you understand exactly what tariffs are, so that as you have these discussions with your fellow colleagues, family members, friends, you can have an intelligent conversation. Let's get back to this. Here we go.
This video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's take a look at the countries in the world that are leading in trade surplus and trade deficit. Let's first look at trade deficit.
So again, tariffs is a tool to balance out trade deficits. Balance out the trade market itself between two countries, right? So remember that tariff is really targeting balancing out trade agreements. Here we go.
Deficit to see who's doing a good job and who's not. If you look at deficit, I already told you who's at the top, which is us, but then look who's next after us. You'll see next is UK with 270 billion. They give referrals out more than they receive. Then it's India at 240. Then it's France, Turkey, Hong Kong, Japan, Philippines, Spain, Egypt, Greece. All of these guys are not having anybody buy more from them. They're buying more from others than they're selling themselves. Look at the ones that have the leaders in trade surplus. If you notice this, China's obviously at the top. Who's second? Germany. 225. Quietly, they're selling 225 more. No one's talking about Germany. 225. Russia. 120. Saudi Arabia, 111. Netherlands, Brazil, Australia, Norway, Taiwan, Qatar. You see the rest of the names there? So imagine you're the CEO of this company called United States of America, and somebody is getting more referrals and more business from you than you're giving to them. You think that's okay? Should you not go renegotiate all contracts? It's like a lot of companies. When you go to a company, you're like, who negotiated these contracts? Tariffs and sanctions are all about negotiations. And if you don't have any leverage, you cannot negotiate. If you got any questions you want to ask me on negotiations, we created the app Manect, so you can have access to someone like me and ask me any question you want. That is the only...
And guys, to be honest with you, I'm actually on Manect myself, so you're welcome to reach out to me as well, also to ask me any questions at all concerning tariffs, real estate, private equity, venture capital, you name it, life, marriage, you name it, I'm on there as well also. But this is a good one. Let's get back to it.
Only place where I get back to people 100% of the time in audio recording. Download the app, ask me any questions you may have, and we'll go from there. So I have a list of every single one of the deals that we've ever negotiated and who was the president when we negotiated, and because he gets up there and says, who the hell negotiated all this stuff? Either these guys were dumb, he calls them stupid, or they got paid or something happened to them. Why would you negotiate all these deals that hurts America and hurts everybody else? Good question to be asking, no? However, I'm going to throw you a curveball. You may say, Pat, where are you going with this? This guy who wrote this book called Wealth of Nations, his name is Adam Smith, one of the greatest economists of all time, was not a fan of tariffs. He said, why would you put tariffs? Best part is free trade. Let everybody compete, because back in the days, tariffs are not a new thing. They've been around for a long time. Tariffs were used during the Roman Empire, a form of taxes on imported goods that were using during that time. And then later on in 16th, 18th century, that we used as mercantilism, which was tariffs being used as a prominent role in global economy during that era. European powers like Britain, France, Spain imposed tariffs and trade restrictions to protect their domestic economies and accumulate wealth. Meaning, hey, you're not buying from us? Tariffs. You're not buying from it? Tariffs. Wait a minute. What's wrong if I'm not buying from you? I'm selling you all this stuff. I know, but I want my businesses in my country to be selling stuff to you. So guess what? If I buy from you $1 billion, you buy from me $1 billion. But that's not how it works. It's how it should work. Why can't we do that? Germany, $220 billion. We buy you Mercedes, BMW, all this stuff. Yes. How about you buy some cars of Ford? How about you buy some cars of Chevrolet? How about you buy some cars that we have here? No. We're okay with our cars. Why are we buying your cars? I'm sorry. Why are we sending all this business to you? Buy some other products from us to match the $220 billion. No, that's not how this works. Bullshit. We're giving you the money. Guess what? You don't want to do that? Here's tariffs. That's the leverage a president has. However, when Adam Smith came out and he said, in order to have free trade, tariffs disrupts it, let everybody go compete because it causes the price of goods to go lower, which he's not wrong. Like when Toyota came in here in 1958, sold the first Toyota, and in 1972, Toyota sold 1 million Toyotas in a year. It's like, oh my God, we have to find a way to lower the prices. Ford, we can't compete with these.
He's actually correct about this. So a lot of individuals that are pro-trade and anti-tariff, the psychology there is if we invite in trade from other countries, what happens is that really drives competition, which can then drive the cost of goods and services low for the consumer. That is the ideology. That's what he's talking about here, right? But with these agreements, what you're seeing is these agreements were so poorly negotiated. There's no balance in exchange, right? And so we're constantly at a deficit, trade deficit, right? Here we go.
Cars, they're cheaper, they're giving more miles per gallon. We got to make our cars better. So all these major companies in America that were like able to make all this money, oh man, this isn't a good thing. Why do we let Toyota come into America? Free trade, free trade, free trade. However, even Adam Smith says on 2 occasions we should use tariffs. Do you know what Adam Smith were the 2 occasions to use tariffs? Here's what he said. 1, defense of domestic industries essential to national security. And 2, counteracting tariffs imposed by other nations, creating a level playing field, which means what? You put tariffs on us, we put it on you. So why is this important? Because, hey, some of that is happening right now with China. Look what America did. So if I'm a president, if you're a president, shouldn't you use this as a way to find out defense against domestic industries essential to national security? China hurt us during COVID, did they not? Should we just sit around and keep letting them have a $823 billion national surplus? You know, when it comes down to trade surplus, when it comes down to all the money they're making, and we're at 1.1 trillion. By the way, as a president, as anybody in business, you have to know what areas you have leverage in when you're negotiating. The tools of sanctions that Trump used against Iran, or the tool of tariffs that Trump used against China, that is a weapon in your arsenal. Correct. If their weapon is stealing IP from us, everything America built, they stole. Everything that you use in America, they stole and did it there. This is documented all over the place. Yes, it is. You want me to keep letting them do that and pass us up, and America becomes number 2 country in the world? Why should we stop competing? Should that be okay? By the way, so you have tariffs, you have sanctions. Shouldn't the president of America be able to threaten some of their enemies that are bullying you and I, and you lose the jobs, and not say, if you don't do this, I'm going to put tariffs on you? 100%, 200%, 500%. What if he just has the power to put that threat out there? What is the purpose of the button? Not to use it, is to threat, right? What is the purpose of a strong military? Not to use it, but to scare the crap out of you so you don't attack. What is the purpose of a tariff and a sanction? To say, if you F with us, I'm going to use this tariff and sanction. You best not F with us and bring those jobs back to America. Yes, are you willing to do that? Yeah. Then let's talk. If not, we don't. By the way, steel industry. In the 40s and 50s, we were the ones running the world, steel industry. Employees left and right working in the steel industry. 700,000 people in America were working in the steel industry in the 50s. Wow. You know what that number is today? It's number 140. How the hell do we go from 700,000 people that take care of their wives and their kids to 140,000? You may say, I don't work in the steel industry. Who gives a shit? Go to Pittsburgh and see what they're doing. Hence, Pittsburgh Steelers. Whatever industry you're in, if it directly impacted you, would you not be upset about it? Imagine how upset they are. By the way, if I ask you right now, of the top 15 steel industry companies in the world, how many companies of ours are in the top 15? What would you say? 5? Would you say 10? 8? Where do you think we're ranked? You think one of our steel companies is in the top 3? We're probably number 1, right? Take a look at this list. Here's, as of 2022, top 15 crude steel producers worldwide. Number 1, guess where it's at? China. Number 2, Luxembourg. Number 3, China. Number 4, Japan. Number 5, China. Number 6, China. Number 7, South Korea. Number 8, China. Number 9, China. Number 10, India. Number 11, China. Number 12, China. Number 13, China. Number 14, Japan. Number 15, India. And guess who's number 16? US. We used to rule the world in steel. What happened? Oh, we gave the business out because it was cheaper. And we went from 700,000 hard-working Americans supporting their wives and their kids to 140,000. Go explain that to 560,000 people that were working in that industry, and now those jobs are in China. You know how many of the companies out of the top 15 are China? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 15. Are you competitive? Do you like to lose? Crazy. I don't like to lose. Are you an American? Do you want your country to win, or do you want China to win when it comes down to this? Why? What happened to Andrew Carnegie Steel? What happened to us rocking it with this industry? Bad policies negotiated by weak negotiators helped China be 9 out of 15 worldwide. You want to know all the different negotiations happened and who the president was when this took place? I'll read them to you, and you go judge them, because it's not only one side, it's both sides. Ready? The USMCA, United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, happened in 94. You know who the president was? Bill Clinton. You know who went back and renegotiated? A guy named Donald J. Trump. Next one. The United States-Korea Free Trade Agreement. You know who negotiated in 2012? Barack Obama. Okay. You know who renegotiated that? A guy named Donald J. Trump. The Central American Dominican Republic Free Trade Agreement. You know who negotiated that? Bush. You know if there's been any negotiations? No. This was 2006, 2009. Australia-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, 2005. No renegotiations. This was under Bush. U.S. trade agreement with Bahrain, 2006, under George W. Bush. No renegotiations. Chile-U.S. under President Bush, 2004. No new renegotiations. Colombia-U.S., 2012, Barack Obama. No new renegotiations. Israel-U.S. Free Trade Agreement under Reagan, 1985. No new renegotiations. Jordan-U.S. Free Trade, 2001, Bill Clinton. No new renegotiations. Morocco-U.S. Free Trade, 2006. Guess who was the president? George Bush. No new renegotiations. Oman, U.S. Free Trade Agreement, 2009, Bush. No new renegotiations. Panama, U.S., 2012, Obama. No new renegotiations. Peru, are you getting bored already? Peru, U.S., 2009, George W. Bush. No new renegotiations. Singapore, U.S., 04, Bush. What do you think? No new renegotiations. You think maybe there's an opportunity for a new person to get hired and said, hey, this is such and such calling on behalf of U.S. and the President of the United States. I'm flying out to you guys next week. We are no longer going this deal that we have, or else we're going to put a tariff on you. I have the breakdown here. Out of all the countries that we have surplus in, not deficit. You know how many countries it is? Argentina, 5 billion, barely any. Chile, 6 billion. Brazil, couple. Colombia, couple. Nigeria, 1, Egypt, 3, and a few others. Mexico, negative surplus. Wow. Canada, Ireland, China, India, Taiwan, Japan. I'm calling every one of these guys, and I'm going on the road to say, we are renegotiating these deals that everybody else did. You're not going to like it. If you don't want to renegotiate these deals and you buy stuff from us, you in America building this stuff, there's a tariff being put on you. This can either be a very easy conversation with you. It can be a very tough conversation with you. What would you like to do? I would like to come to your place. We have a great conversation. I'd like to try your food. I'd like to learn more about your culture. I'd like to walk away saying you're a country that we're going to do business with for decades to come. But if you think for a second we're going to continue this, things are going to be very rough for you and your economy the next 4 years. How would you like to approach this? No problem. We're on our way. My team will call your team. Let's book lunch and dinner. I need a full day with all your decision makers. We'll see you guys soon. That's tariffs. That's trade surplus. That's trade deficit. The next time somebody starts screaming off at the top of their lungs, oh my God, this isn't what we should be doing. Even Ray Dalio said in his books, as a society in a country gets bigger, you start hiring people on the outside, and that's what happens because you have all this money. You don't want to pay it internally anymore because people are worth too much money. You can't afford it. Yeah, okay, that sounds all good. But guess what? We got to kind of bring it back over here. If we go the way we're going right now, we're paying all these guys, and the jobs are being taken away from you, your family, your loved ones, your friends. Do you want that? If you don't, go share the hell out of this video with other people so they can understand the concept of tariffs, trade deficits, and trade surplus. And if you got any questions, comment below. If you got value,
so guys, man, again, this is a phenomenal presentation by Patrick concerning tariffs. I thought it'd be wise for us to understand what tariffs truly is, right? And I love how you kind of put it in for it. Tariffs is tariffs, trade deficits, and trade surpluses. Love that to make it easy for you to understand. But then you see Donald Trump when it came to him and Bloomberg, editor-in-chief Bloomberg talking. Of course, the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg is kind of really anti-tariffs. And Trump is, as you said, he's pro-tariffs. Now, let's talk about why they are anti-tariffs. Well, the philosophy there is very simple. It is people negotiating these bad trade deals, which has us in a trade deficit, right? With several different countries. You saw Patrick list them in the presentation there. The idea was since the U.S. has the most desirable consumer base, if they negotiated a trade deal to invite them in, the psychology is that would ramp up competition, which would then drive down the cost for consumers. And I will say they probably got to keep back in some form of fashion. That is my opinion. I don't know if to be a fact. But that is the kind of the foundational perspective when it comes to people that are anti-tariff. So their whole substratum is, hey, inviting in external companies to be able to compete in our American market drives down the cost for consumers. Well, that's great in theory until all of a sudden you actually have a trade deficit, because initially when these individuals were negotiating these trade deals, there was no even exchange in product or services, right? So therefore, the U.S. is paying significant trade deficits. I can be honest with you, China actually has the biggest trade surplus. They're killing the game, which leads me to conclude we have terrible negotiators. We have terrible negotiators that actually negotiate on our behalf. Good God. But then for those that like President Trump who are pro-tariff, he said, okay, I understand your psychology when it comes to inviting in competition externally, but now we have to bring it back to the crib, right? So we can either renegotiate this trade deal, or because it's so one-sided, I'm going to hit you with a tariff. Now, those that are anti-tariffs are going to say, well, if they do that, they're just going to pass it on to the consumer. And you may be right on that. But again, what's happening is the tariff is used as a tool, and also sanctions, but as a tool to really originate competition within the U.S. borders with other companies. Okay, let me give you an example of what I mean by that, hypothetically, when it comes to using tariffs as a tool to originate competition within the U.S. borders with U.S. companies. Let's say company A normally buys their product, right, from China, right? And there's a tariff on China products. Well, of course, China's paying that, but again, that cost is being passed on to the consumer, right? To that company itself. So now they got to make a decision. Do I continue to buy from China, my partner here, when it comes to the Chinese company, or do something different? Right? Because they're just going to pass it on to the consumer. The consumer is going to say, wait a minute, I'm paying more for said price point. What's going on? Well, company B may say, wait a minute, I see the product that company A is buying from that Chinese company. I can make it better and offer it for cheaper. And so what happens is this tariff opportunity creates an opportunity to originate competition within the U.S. borders with U.S. companies. That company B produces that good or service cheaper than what they're buying. Company A is buying from the China company. So therefore, now you have trade with U.S. companies internally. Does that make some sense? That is the tariff tool that Trump is talking about, right? To even that trade deficit, because we have a lot of trade deficits, a ton. And to be honest with you guys, I actually agree with it, so to speak. I'm a fan of tariffs when it's used in its proper context, right? And the proper context to me is to even out trade deficits. That's what I want to do, to force renegotiating of these bad trade deals. That's what I'm for. Could it pass on the cost to consumers? Potentially. It depends on what that company does that's acquiring from an external country. So it really depends on the companies themselves. But I like tariffs because it forces internal competition, guys. So, man, I hope you guys have some value there, man. There was a good discussion about tariffs, guys. If you have any more questions about tariffs, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. You saw President Trump in its exchange with the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg now, and his perspective on tariffs. Now, is this the type of thinking that you want sitting across the table from President Xi, Kim Jong-un, or any other world leader, or President Putin of Russia? Do you want this type of thinking sitting across and negotiating America's affairs on your behalf? For me, the answer would be yes. It would be yes for me. I don't know about that for you, but just let me know. Comment below. What do you think? Is Trump a good fit? Would he be a good fit for the presidency when it comes to the topic of business and tariffs? Do you want this individual negotiating all affairs for America? Let me know. All right, guys. Well, man, guys, thanks so much for your time. Now, I'm always asking concerning our merch, guys. Hey, get your merch below. There's a link below, guys. You can get you a hoodie. You can get you a hat called The Bag. It's called I Got That Bag University merch, guys. Hey, get you that merch, guys, so you can begin to show how you earn your diploma every single time. What's that diploma, guys? It's that check, guys. Go get it. Also, guys, I'm asked a lot of times concerning real estate. Hey, Dale, can you train me? The answer is always yes. But at the exact same time, our schedules may not align, which is fine. That's cool. No worries. So what we're doing is to kind of even the playing field. Now, we're giving out a free ebook called Distressed Property Investing, right? This is how you can locate distressed properties, whether it be single-family residence, duplexes, multifamily, apartment complexes, and the office building as well. Also, for you to be able to locate those distressed properties, guys, right? And there's one technique in there that's actually free that you can do right now. If you could, there's a link below, or you're welcome to scan on this QR code as well, guys, for distressed property investing. Download the free ebook, guys. It's right there, or you click on the link below. It's completely free. Don't want nothing from you at all. I want to get you that information. So, because if I can teach you how to locate a deal, right? Vet a deal, make sure the numbers make sense, structure it the right way. Hey, I'll fund the deal for you and we can profit share. Very simple, guys. Or guys, if you're not able to scan on the QR code or click on the link below, don't you worry. Right over here, you see in the corner over there, the word real estate. DM me the word real estate. If you're on a platform that you can direct message me, it comes to me, and my team will send you over this exact same link that's actually on this QR code, right? This exact same link. DM me the word real estate, and we'll get you the link for you to download your book. Also, guys, some people tell me, hey, Liddell, real estate is not for me, and that's fine. No worries about it at all. Hey, don't you worry about it. We do have something called the Passive Income Blueprint. A good friend of mine, Matt Sapala, did a presentation, and it's free, on 3 strategies for you to generate passive income. And the realistic is about $1.5 million of passive income, guys. Hey, guys, it's free. It doesn't cost you a dime at all. Just scan on this QR code right here, or click on the link below. Or if you want to do any of that at all, guys, what you can do is that if you see on the screen, you see the word that says passive income, DM me the word passive income, guys, and my team will get you out this exact same link for you to watch it. And it's for free. It does not cost you a dime. I don't know what business model is best for you. This could most likely lead you in the right direction to determine what's the fastest way for you to retire. What's the best business model for you to use to be able to make to really stop working your full-time job and go into and work your business full time. I don't know. The only person knows that is you. So if you could scan on the QR code, click on the link below, or DM me the word passive income. We'll get it out to you guys. Well, guys, man, I hope I actually added some value to you, man. This was kind of fun to put together, to be honest with you, because of the fact that it really forced me to kind of study a little bit, because I know how tariffs can be a very complex thing, but I want to dumb it down for you real quickly. And also I wanted to really listen authentically to Vice President Kamala Harris. Again, guys, go and vote. Make your voice heard, guys. But you know, I end it every single time. Before you leave, guys, and while you can, you see that thing, baby. Take that damn pitch and give G Mama and holler at your partner. God bless you guys. See you next time. Peace.
Man, let's keep it 1,000. You are concerned about what's going on with this economy. I know I would be, man. You have the stock market not doing too well. You have inflation outpacing wages right now. And you have major companies looking at laying off a lot of people. Man, I had a friend of mine whose wife works for a major pharmaceutical company, and they're talking about laying off scientists, man. Scientists. It's getting real out there, guys. But hold on, wait a minute. It's not the end of the world for those that actually have a counter move. More than ever, it's time for everyday Americans to begin looking at a side hustle, a business for them to begin building now, and for them to be able to have the ability to pass the business on to second and third generation. Now, what business model is best for you? That's a great question. And the only person that can answer that question is you. The good news is a good friend of mine, Matt Sapala, actually did a good presentation on presenting the passive income blueprint. 3 effective ways to generate $1.5 million in passive income. The most powerful word in business is cash flow. And even a more powerful word is passive cash flow. I know because I've been able to live the life of my dreams because of passive income. Most individuals focus on commission-based, generating commission. What if you can actually generate $1.5 million in passive income that can change not only your life, but generations to come, guys? Click on the link below or swipe up, guys, and I think you'll be blessed with what you see. God bless you. See you on the other side.